It all started with a gleaming Rolls-Royce Phantom parked in my driveway, its polished chrome catching the morning sun like a beacon of success. I had no idea that car would ignite a firestorm with the neighborhood's self-appointed enforcer, Karen, the HOA president who ruled our cul-de-sac like a dictator. By the end of the week, I was in handcuffs, my name was dragged through the mud, and the whole neighborhood was buzzing with a scandal that nobody saw coming. My name is Marcus, and I'm a 38-year-old tech entrepreneur who just moved into this upscale gated community in Scottsdale, Arizona. After years of grinding, I'd finally hit it big with a startup that sold for a 9-figure sum. The Rolls-Royce was my reward, a sleek, obsidian black Phantom, custom-ordered, worth more than most of the houses on my street. I wasn't trying to flex, it was just my dream car, something I'd promised myself since I was a kid flipping through car magazines. But to Karen, that car was a declaration of war. The neighborhood was picture-perfect, with manicured lawns, identical beige mailboxes, and a quiet so pristine you could hear a pin drop. The HOA, led by Karen, a 50-something real estate agent with a perm that screamed 1985, had rules for everything: grass height, fence colors, even the exact shade of mulch allowed in flower beds. I'd skimmed the HOA handbook when I moved in, but I figured as long as I paid my dues and kept my place tidy, I'd be fine. Big mistake. The trouble started 3 days after I parked the Rolls in my driveway. I was sipping coffee in my kitchen, scrolling through emails, when I heard a sharp knock on the door. It was Karen, clipboard in hand, her lips pursed so tight they could have cracked walnuts. She didn't even say hello, just launched into a lecture about how my car was violating Regulation 4.2.1, subsection B, which apparently banned ostentatious vehicles from being parked in plain sight. I was baffled. Ostentatious. It was a car, not a neon sign. I politely told her I'd look into it, thinking that'd be the end of it. Spoiler, it wasn't. The next morning, I found a neon orange violation notice taped to my windshield. It listed excessive vehicle prominence and demanded I move the Rolls to my garage by noon or face a $500 fine. I laughed it off at first. $500 was pocket change, and I wasn't about to let some busybody dictate where I parked my car. My garage was full of moving boxes anyway, and the Rolls was safer in the driveway, where my security cameras could keep an eye on it. I crumpled the notice and tossed it in the trash. By day 3, Karen escalated. She sent an email blast to the entire HOA mailing list, calling my Rolls-Royce an eyesore that lowered property values and disrupted community harmony. She included photos of my car from every angle, like she'd spent hours staking out my house. The email ended with a call to action: residents, let's uphold our standards. I started getting dirty looks from neighbors I'd never even met. Old guys walking their dogs would scowl at my driveway. A mom pushing a stroller crossed the street to avoid passing my house. It was surreal. I decided to talk to Karen directly, thinking I could reason with her. I knocked on her door, a beige McMansion with a live, laugh, love sign on the porch. She answered in a tracksuit, her eyes narrowing like I was a door-to-door salesman. I explained that the Rolls was my personal property, parked legally on my own driveway, and that I'd be happy to discuss any real concerns. She cut me off, saying, "This isn't about legality, Marcus. It's about respect. You're new here, so let me make it clear, we don't do flashy in this community." I bit my tongue and walked away, but I wasn't about to move my car. Things got weirder from there. I started noticing Karen driving by my house multiple times a day in her white SUV, slowing down to glare at the Rolls. My doorbell camera caught her taking photos at 6 a.m. one morning, crouching behind my mailbox like some kind of suburban spy. I posted about it on the neighborhood's private Facebook group, asking if anyone else thought this was over the top. Big mistake. The group exploded with comments, half calling me arrogant for showing off my wealth, the other half saying Karen was unhinged but just doing her job. Someone even commented, "If you can afford that car, why not buy a house in a better neighborhood?" Ouch. I tried to stay calm. I called my lawyer, who confirmed the HOA's rule about ostentatious vehicles was so vague it was unenforceable. He advised me to ignore Karen and let her tire herself out. But Karen didn't tire. She doubled down, sending me daily violation notices, each with a higher fine, $500, then $1,000, then $2,500. I ignored them all, stacking them in a drawer like a bizarre collection. Then she started leaving voicemails, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Marcus, this is Karen from the HOA. We really need to resolve this vehicle issue. Let's be good neighbors, okay?" By week 2, I was fed up. I decided to push back, not with lawyers, but with a little petty revenge. I ordered a custom car cover for the Rolls, bright red with "Property of Marcus" embroidered in gold letters. If Karen thought the car was ostentatious before, this cover turned it into a billboard. I figured it'd get a laugh from the neighbors and maybe make her back off. Instead, it was like throwing gasoline on a fire. The next morning, I woke up to sirens. 2 police cars were parked outside my house, lights flashing. My heart sank as I stepped outside to find Karen standing on my lawn, arms crossed, smirking like she'd won the lottery. 2 officers approached me, one holding a pair of handcuffs. "Sir, we've received a report of vandalism and harassment," the older cop said, his tone flat. Vandalism? Harassment? I was dumbfounded. Karen had called the cops, claiming my car cover was defacing community property, and that I'd been intimidating her by refusing to comply with HOA rules. I tried to explain, calmly I swear, that this was a misunderstanding, that the car was mine, the cover was a joke, and Karen had been the one staking out my house. But she was in full performance mode, clutching her pearls and telling the officers I was destabilizing the neighborhood. The cops didn't seem to care about my side. They said they had to take me in for questioning because Karen had filed a formal complaint, backed by witness statements from other neighbors. As they cuffed me, I saw curtains twitching in every house on the street. The whole neighborhood was watching. At the station, I sat in a holding room for 3 hours, my wrists sore from the cuffs. My lawyer showed up, furious, and got the charges dropped by the end of the day. Turns out, Karen's vandalism claim was baseless, and her witnesses were just her book club buddies parroting her story. But the damage was done. By the time I got home, my car cover was slashed to ribbons, and someone had keyed "Move Out" into the side of my Rolls. The repair bill was going to be north of $20,000. I was livid, but I wasn't about to let Karen win. I filed a police report for the vandalism and hired a private investigator to dig into her. Turns out, Karen wasn't just a nosy neighbor, she had a history. The PI found out she'd been sued twice before for abusing her HOA power in other neighborhoods, once for trying to fine a family for having a wheelchair ramp, and another for bullying a retiree into selling his home. I also learned she'd been skimming HOA dues for personal expenses, like her yearly trips to Cabo. Armed with this, I decided to take the fight to the HOA board. At the next HOA meeting, I showed up with my lawyer and a stack of evidence. The room was packed, word had spread about the handcuff incident, and everyone wanted to see the showdown. Karen sat at the head of the table, looking smug until I started talking. I laid it all out, her harassment, the illegal fines, the vandalism she'd likely orchestrated, and the financial discrepancies I'd uncovered. I passed out copies of the PI's report, complete with bank statements showing her shady transactions. The room went silent. Karen's face turned the color of her tracksuit. By the end of the meeting, the board voted unanimously to remove her as president. A few neighbors even apologized to me, admitting they'd been pressured into siding with her. Karen tried to storm out, but not before shouting that I'd ruined her life. I didn't feel bad. She'd brought this on herself. The aftermath was messy but satisfying. Karen moved out a month later, her house listed for sale at a bargain price. The new HOA president, a chill guy named Dave who owned a landscaping business, rewrote the rulebook to nix vague terms like ostentatious. My Rolls-Royce. It's back in the driveway, freshly repaired, no cover needed. I still get the occasional side eye from a few of Karen's old cronies, but most of the neighborhood has warmed up to me. I even hosted a barbecue last weekend, and half the street showed up. Looking back, I never thought a car could cause so much chaos. But it wasn't really about the Rolls, it was about power, control, and one woman's obsession with both. I'm just glad I stood my ground. If I hadn't, I'd probably still be dodging violation notices, or worse, looking for a new place to live.